got invited to go back to his suite, to meet, and then with the presumption of going down to dinner, I never thought in a million years that it would lead to what had happened, In that moment, I didn't expect the conversation to go that way. I didn't expect for him to invite me on his television show, and then 3 hours later, I didn't expect for him to, take his clothes off in the bedroom. And then even crazier is here we are almost 2 decades later, and we're still talking about it.
Did you ever think you were standing next to a future president there at the time?
No. I mean, look at his face. No, definitely not. I mean, it just wasn't even on the radar. I wish I had a clever answer, but...
Did you ever think
no.
what might come afterwards?
Even my mind's not that dirty. No way. Who would think that?
Yeah. What was your reaction when you saw the news that he was going to be indicted?
So it was very complicated. You know what I mean? Like at first, of course, it was like, yes, finally, like vindication. There's that initial excitement and high, like, oh, finally the truth is going to come out. And then it sort of faded to the bigger picture. You know what I mean? Like it's really kind of sad because you have to understand that no matter which way it goes, it's still going to be very divisive and further separate and hurt the country and individuals too. And it's how did we get to this point? How did somebody get away with so much that it's just hard to comprehend, you know what I mean? So it's very bittersweet, and it's not over yet. Who knows what's going to happen?
You've been key in the investigation to the point where you also handed over documents to prosecutors. Just how damning are those documents?
It just depends on what they decide to use. I turned over some emails between, former attorneys and offered all my phone records and a list of witnesses and chronological facts that can be backed up by witnesses and photographs. The truth will speak for itself, and that's the hard thing about this is people want to just discredit me and not believe what I have to say, even when I have factual proof.
So if prosecutors get their way, then Donald Trump may be on trial. He may have to face a criminal trial sometime next year, and you could potentially be a star witness.
Right.
Are you still willing to take the stand?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if they don't call me and they don't allow me, I think it's more detrimental to me, because if you don't call the person at the center of whatever the legal issue is, it makes it look like I wasn't credible or that they were purposely trying to keep me off the stand, and it implies that that I can't be trusted or that there's something that they are not willing to risk.
How do you feel about seeing him face to face again?
Well, at least this time he'll have clothes on.
Can we talk about 2 decades ago when you met and just, where did you meet him and just tell us what happened?
I met him in 2006 in Lake Tahoe at a golf charity event where I was hired with the company I work for to sponsor, one of the holes on the course, which, yes, trust me, I get how funny that is that porn stars sponsoring a hole. And then we were in the gift room and started chatting, and he had his bodyguard ask for my number and invite me to dinner to discuss some, potential of a business proposition for a television show. It had nothing to do with sex.
And then after the dinner, what happened?
We didn't even have dinner. Like we just met and talked for, several hours and about business and his business, my business, questions about the inner workings of the adult film industry, the projects he had going on. Obviously, we discussed Celebrity Apprentice and his other various entertainment projects. And after a while, as we famously know, I went to use the ladies' room and the hotel room wasn't just a standard room with a bed, it was a huge room. I had we sat at a dining room table in a dining room, so I had to go through the living room, down a hall, into the bedroom, and then into the bathroom. So I was, I just went to use the restroom and came out, and he had come into the bedroom and taken off most of his clothes, and that's when it kind of took a hard left. It was truly shocking, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't discussed or hinted at or flirted about, or it's just like, oh my God, where are your clothes? And then I just felt really ashamed and felt really stupid, you know what I mean? Because I didn't think that's what it was about, and I'd spent so much time getting comfortable and chatting, and I was just caught off guard, and I wasn't expecting that. A lot of people make the have the wrong idea that I went there for that reason. And if I had, to be quite frank, I wouldn't be talking right now because it had been a consensual transaction and done deal, and I would move on, you know? But that wasn't it. I wasn't even paid for over a decade later. So that's the big question, is if I was paid for sex, why did it take him 10 years to pay me?
Did you feel as though you had to engage in some sort of sexual activity?
I did. I say all the time, it wasn't a Me Too thing. He didn't threaten me or like physically put his hands on me. I just sort of froze and didn't know what to do. And, you know, of course I tried to sidestep, and he was there and his bodyguard was outside the door, and I don't know. I'm still trying to process a lot of that.
You were 27 at the time.
I was.
He was 60 years old. So do you feel, in some sense, that as an older man, he should have known better, or a conversation should have been had? As
an older married man, yes, absolutely, you know. And there was no conversation. And that's, out of all of this, like, when I'm alone at night, I guess that's what bothers me the most, is I feel guilty. Like, if it happened today, I would have been like, what's hard now? Take one more step and I'm gonna break your nose. But I had a weak moment because I was caught so off guard and was so ashamed, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know how to put it into words exactly.
You also communicated quite a bit, didn't you? Mm-hmm. He was texting and calling. He
was calling at least once a week for like 7 or 8 months. And I would put him on speakerphone in front of 10s and 20 people at a time, and we would laugh about it.
A lot of people wonder up until this day, and I know you'll be able to give us an insight as to why you accepted that $130,000 from his lawyer at the time, Michael Cohen.
Because the story was starting to explode and it was getting everywhere, and I didn't want it to come out. And as I've told numerous times and nobody pays attention, is at first I didn't think he was going to run for president. Like, I thought it was a joke. I laughed it off. I mean, he flat out told me himself he didn't want to be president. I was like, oh, this is a PR thing. This is what he does. He's brilliant at that, right? And so I just ignored it or chuckled about it. And then he got the nomination, and some friends that are, you know, very knowledgeable in politics and lawyers said, you might actually have a problem, because whether they love him or hate him, the Republican Party has to back him, and you could be detrimental, so they could potentially do something really terrible to you. And so when they approached with that offer, I was like, oh, this is perfect, because now there's a paper trail and proof, so they can't touch me. And also guaranteeing that, well, at the time I thought it was a guarantee. I was sorely mistaken that it would never come out and my life wouldn't be disrupted, because I had this, you know, amazing family and career and friends, and lived a very quiet life in Texas in my dream house, and none of my neighbors knew who or was or what I did. So it was a win-win.
Had you been offered more money by Michael Cohen, would you have still spoken out?
It wasn't about the money. It was what happened the steps after. It could have been 0, it could have been 10 million. It doesn't change the fact that I was under an NDA that neither party was supposed to break. And then they broke it not once, not twice, but 3 times, until now all these people who were supposed to know nothing, because we weren't supposed to talk about it, suddenly know a lot of stuff, and I can't even defend myself. So it didn't matter what that number would have been. It could have been $1 billion. At some point, when you have press in your front lawn chasing your family and calling you names, you're gonna want to at least defend yourself. You know what I mean? So the dollar amount has no bearing on that for me.
I want to touch very quickly on the threats that you're having to live with. Mm-hmm. A quick look at your Twitter page, and we get a snapshot of the hate, the violence, mm-hmm. and the constant abuse that comes your way.
Right.
What is that like for you?
Well, it's very different than like it was the first time around. Before, you know, I couldn't really damage him. He was already president. Now there's a real threat to him and his being president, and potentially even, you know, legal consequences. And they're much more bold now. They're not using bot accounts. They're texting me death threats from their actual phone numbers instead of like unknown, like literal people.
Who do you think these people are?
Obviously Trump supporters. Like, they've basically like, leave Trump alone, or, you know, you're gonna have to answer to God, and me and my friends are gonna make sure that happens, or, and they're not hiding. They feel like totally justified in doing that. Like, it's like they're being patriots. You know what I mean? It's very, very different. And it used to be like 1 in 100 maybe was a death threat, other than just a. Now it's like 1 in 10.
So you're having actual threats that
Daily.
you're going to be killed?
Yes, every day.
How do you live with that?
I mean, you have a choice to either, stay hidden away or hide and live in fear, or just be like, whatever's meant to be will be and live your life, But obviously we take extra precautions,
Are you scared?
Crazy people scare me in general. But also, I'm not scared enough to back down.
I understand you've also been chased in cars.
Definitely a couple of car chases, definitely been shot at a couple of times.
Your collection of firearms have grown ever since you've gotten with your now husband, and obviously you're a proud gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does that play into the wider threat level that you're sort of having to see? You've obviously got bodyguards, but do you feel that you have to have these weapons in order to protect yourself as well?
Absolutely, because you got to figure if someone's going to go through the trouble of finding you and breaking in, they're not going to do it unarmed. So it's better to be prepared. For 2 years, I had 2 armed bodyguards stand over with me 24/7. I didn't pee without a gun present for 2 years. That's pretty insane.
Are you armed most of the time?
Mm-hmm.
And you won't go anywhere without your firearm?
As long as it's legal, yeah. I mean, obviously, we can't always fly with it, so we hire local.
Do you think threats have increased against you this past week or couple of days?
Oh, for sure. Everybody's very upset at the moment, and that's not really surprising.
Can we talk about his wife, Melania?
Mm-hmm.
She was missing. She didn't appear alongside him when he gave his news conference from his Florida residence, and there are a lot of people wondering what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel any sympathy for her at all? Because I imagine as a married woman and knowing that her husband has allegedly had an affair,
right.
it must not be easy.
I mean, anything I say is going to be speculation, so I hesitate. I'm not, I would assume that she doesn't need me or anyone else to speak for her. Perhaps her not speaking is her speaking. There's silence speaks volumes, if you will. But if she's in sort of a situation that is how it appears, then yeah, I feel bad for her. She's a mother. I would assume that just like me as a mother, her main priority is her child. The other side of that, we all have to remember, we don't know what is in their private life. We don't know what goes on behind the doors. We don't know what kind of arrangement they had. You know what I mean? Like, I know some freaky people. We don't know. And we could sit here and talk about it all day long, but until she feels the need to speak for herself, then we just won't know.
Do you have a message for her at all?
Call me if you need me to testify at your divorce proceedings.
What do you say to his supporters, his children and family who continue to discredit you?
I understand where his family's coming from. Like, you always want to support your family, so I'm not even going to touch that. But like, his supporters and people, don't believe anything he says. Don't believe anything I say. Look for the facts. Don't believe a headline. Don't believe clickbait. Literally, we watched this man go on TV last night, and then I watched the fact checking. I saw another, his attorney went on TV and was talking about me and had all the facts wrong. I'm not talking about opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I would expect people to extend grace and listen to each other's opinions and agree to disagree if you want to. I do that all day long. I have a preteen. I agree to disagree all day long. But just look at the evidence for yourself. Make your own decisions. Don't be sheep. And right now it just seems like this mass herd of orange-colored sheep.
The legacy, I mean, what do you think your legacy is going to be, Stormy?
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure. Hopefully, don't mess with a girl from New Orleans.
Yeah, Louisiana.
My ride's here.
Perfect. and then, I mean, what about regrets? Do you have any regrets at all?
Yeah, going to that room the first time.
And what would you have done differently, do you think?
Said I'm not hungry. Not go. I mean, that's the thing is people say if you could go back and do it over, we'd do it again. If I could go back to when I came forward, I'm an idiot. I totally would do it again because it's the right thing to do. If I could go further back to 2006, I would have never gone to that room.